Understand something. I want you to understand the scenario in which Elijah comes in. There is a man, we said last week, his name is Ahab. He is a Jewish king, but he is a compromiser. And Ahab is a king that will pick up a story in 1 Kings. Just for a moment, I want you to read it there. Verse 29, it says 16, 1 Kings 16. Just let's look there for a moment. Ahab the son of Omri became king of Israel in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah. And verse 30 tells us about Ahab. Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord, more than all who were before him. If you thought that the kings before Ahab were bad, and they were, this guy was the worst of the worst. And he reigned not for a few years. Some of the dirty ones that you don't want as kings, they ruled the longest. And this guy ruled for 22 years. I was thinking about that. 22 years is a long time to rule a nation. And listen to what he did. It came about as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, his great-great-grandfather. He did it even worse, that he married Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went to serve Baal and worship him. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. This is just 7-8 miles away from Jerusalem, not very far away, maybe 10 miles away. There is a mountain there, and this guy has now brought in Baal worship into God's holy land, if you would. The nation that God has chosen. And so here is this man who, Ahab, think about him. He marries this woman called Jezebel, and we hear a lot about Jezebel in the Bible. She's a wicked queen. And Jezebel worships Baal, who's the god of the Sidonians or the Phoenicians. Now I want you to understand how bad Baal worship was. Jesus used to refer to Beelzebub in the New Testament. Same, similar. And he called him a demon. So Baal worship was demonic. And according to the Baal worship of the time, this is what Baal would be. He was an idol god. And he sat, we said last week, he sat on a cow, very similar to Indian idols. Sat on a cow. And he was the god who was supposed to be responsible for the land's fertility. And so he would be sitting on this idol, and he was the god of the lightning and the thunder. And would you believe he was the god of the rain? And so this idol god was, the worship of this idol pagan god now was brought into Israel by Ahab. What's worse about it is that the Baal worship was very evil. They would take, when there was something would go wrong and there was no fertility in the land, the Baal worshippers would take children and offer it to one of the gods of Baal's, the semi-deities of Baal's, called a god called Molech. And Molech would sit there, and he would be a big iron idol, and they would have a big stomach with an open furnace, and they would have a furnace under it, and they would put their children, babies, offering them to Molech God. And so you can see how evil this religion was. Horrible. What a time in the nation of Israel. And into this situation comes Elijah. Now I want you to understand something. Maybe I've shared this part before with you. But Ahab was not, he was like, there was something still in him from his Jewish roots. And the reason we know that is he had two sons. The first one is Ahaziah and Jotham. And in their names there was Yahwistic names. In other words, Jehotham from Jehovah and Ahaziah from Yahweh. And there was something in him, in these names, that basically said, I still believe in Yahweh, but I also believe in Baal. What do you call people like that? Two-faced. You call them compromisers. It's like I have one foot here with Baal worship and one foot here I love the God, and I'm somehow playing my game between the two fences. So on one side you have Ahab, who's a compromiser. On the other side you have Jezebel, who's just demon-possessed. I mean, she's demonized, if you would. She's just into Baal worship all the time. And in this very bad situation, you have the people of Israel, and they are wondering about who to worship, and they're starting to follow Baal worship. And in this situation, God brings a man, and he comes into the scene, and he's awesome. And his name is Elijah. And Elijah's name, by his very name, you know what he represents. Because Elijah's name means Yahweh is my God. Or my God is Yahweh. Or the Lord, my God is Yahweh. Elijah from Elohim, Yah from Jehovah, and I from the Lord is my God. Think about this. And this man comes on the scene. And I love the situation, because the question in Israel at this time was, the people were asking is, who is responsible for the fertility of this land? Is Baal responsible for the fertility of this land? Is that why we are receiving a blessing from the rains? Or is Yahweh responsible for the fertility of the land? Ahab was saying both. Jezebel was saying, demon-possessed Jezebel was saying, Baal. And Yahweh was saying, and Elijah was saying, there is only one God who rules the heavens and the earth. And his name is Yahweh, the living God. Here's the scenario. Elijah comes in the scene. And I love the way he comes in. He comes in, as we saw last time, makes an announcement. And the announcement is this: by my word, as long as the Lord lives, by my word, there will be no rain in Israel except by my word. Now I want you to see what's happening here. Elijah is not just telling the people of Israel, telling Ahab that there will be no rain. He's actually saying to them, listen guys, Baal is the God who produces rain. And I'm going to show you right now, if that's what he does, that's what his ace is, that's what he specializes in, producing rain, I'm going to show you that he's absolutely powerless. Because I'm going to challenge you that by the word of Yahweh there will be no rain for many years except by the word of Yahweh. And Mount Carmel was chosen because Mount Carmel was the place where Baal worship was maximum. It was, if you would, it was the home field. It was the center, home base for Baal worship. And so he said, we're gonna call you right here at Mount Carmel. You see what's happening? Tremendous. And then Elijah goes away, and he's away in the brook of Cherith, and he is being trained. And in brook Cherith, God has his beautiful experiences for him at the Cherith brook, and there is where God is training him. And then God takes him to Zarephath. And you know what? When Elijah says what he says, the word of the Lord, God honors Elijah's word, and there is no rain. And for 3.5 years there is no rain in the land.